Welcome back to the B.I channel. I'm Soren Hale, and today we're tackling something a lot of founders assume is a "we'll do that later" problem: business intelligence. And no, I don't mean building dashboards just to look sophisticated, or charts that impress investors for about 10 minutes. I mean the day one advantage: practical metrics, feedback loops, lightweight models, and product insights that help a small team make better calls faster, with fewer arguments and fewer expensive mistakes. This episode is all about scaling smart, and we're doing it as a panel because B.I touches everything: product, growth, finance, operations. And if those teams each live in their own version of reality, the company moves slower than it should. The startups that scale tend to be the ones that connect those local truths into one shared decision engine. Quick context on me, so you know where I'm coming from. I've spent my career building analytics programs in fast-growth environments, from scrappy teams to well-funded ones, all under deadline and pressure. My obsession is simple: what do we need to know this week to make the right decision next week? That's what B.I is supposed to deliver. Alright, let's bring in our guests. We've got Maya Chin, a growth lead who's built growth systems across multiple startup stages. Maya, welcome.
Thanks, Soren. I'm excited, mostly because B is one of those things everyone claims they want, and then they roll it out in the most painful, complicated way imaginable. So let's make it usable.
We also have Rafael Torres, CFO and finance operator, known for turning messy early-stage reality into models teams can actually steer with. Rafael, glad you're here.
Happy to be here. And I'll do my best to keep the finance parts awake and human.
And rounding out the panel is Priya Nair, who leads product analytics and product intelligence, instrumentation, behavioral analysis, cohorts, experiments, and translating what users do into what we build next. Priya, welcome.
Thanks, Soren. I love this topic because analytics only matters if it changes the product in ways users can actually feel.
Here's what you'll get by the end of the episode: a clear mental model for 4 pillars of Startup BI. 1. Metrics that matter. 2. Growth loops. 3. Financial modeling. 4. Product intelligence. And most importantly, how to connect them, so you don't end up with 4 separate programs that never talk to each other. One idea we'll keep coming back to: startups don't scale by accident. They scale because they learn faster than everyone else, including faster than their own mistakes. BI is your learning system. Let's start at the base layer: metrics. Because if the metrics are wrong, growth gets distorted, product gets misled, finance gets surprised, and the team spends more time debating numbers than building. So here's my opener: why do startups so often end up tracking either everything under the sun, or basically nothing that helps?
2 big reasons. First, tool pressure. You sign up for an analytics tool and it ships with tons of dashboards, so you feel like a responsible company is supposed to stare at 100 charts every morning. Second, anxiety. When the business feels uncertain, measuring more feels like progress. It's comforting. But it's not the same as measuring what actually drives outcomes.
I'd add misalignment. If product, growth, and leadership don't agree on what success means, everyone picks the metric that makes their work look best. That's how you end up with vanity metrics winning meetings even when they don't predict retention or revenue.
From finance, I see a cousin of that problem: metrics without context. A team celebrates something like, revenue is up 30%, but churn is rising, payback is getting worse, CAC is climbing, collections are slowing. So that 30% can be borrowed growth that turns into a cash problem later.
So it's not just too many metrics. It's a lack of hierarchy. And really, a lack of connection between the number and the decision it's supposed to change. If a metric doesn't change what you do, it's just decoration. Let's make metrics concrete. Most startup metrics fit into 3 buckets: acquisition, activation and engagement, and then revenue and retention. Maya, acquisition in plain language. What are we actually measuring?
Acquisition is basically how people arrive, and whether they're the right people. So yes, you can look at clicks and impressions if you do paid. But what matters more is qualified visits, sign-up conversion, cost per acquired user or lead, and then quality by channel. Acquisition isn't about getting anyone. It's about getting the right users at a cost that won't wreck the business.
Priya, activation and engagement. Where do teams get that wrong?
They treat the count created as success. Activation is whether someone reaches the real first value moment, the aha. For B2B, it might be connecting data, inviting teammates, shipping a first workflow, generating a report. Engagement is what happens after. Are they returning, going deeper, progressing through the core workflow? Is the product becoming a habit, or is it a one-time curiosity?
Raphael, revenue and retention. Where's the confusion show up?
Teams mix up faster top line with healthier business. You've got MAR, ARR, expansion, contraction, net revenue retention. And on retention, you've got logo retention versus revenue retention. The big mistake is chasing revenue while ignoring churn, discounting, service costs, long payback periods. $1 of revenue isn't equally valuable if it costs you $3 to create it.
So here's a useful filter for a startup. If a metric doesn't help you improve acquisition, activation and engagement, or revenue and retention, it might be noise. Now we have to talk about the famous phrase everyone throws around, the North Star metric. Priya, can you define it without making it sound like a poster on the wall?
The North Star metric is the one number that most directly reflects the value your product delivers to users, at scale. It's not just our business goal. It's more like, when users are truly succeeding, what measurable behavior increases? It should rise when user value rises.
Maya, give us examples people recognize, and then give us the warning label.
Classic examples. A marketplace might track completed transactions, a travel marketplace might track nights booked, a collaboration tool might track documents shared or messages sent. The warning label is, don't choose something you can inflate with junk. If you can hack it by forcing clicks or spamming invites, it's not a value metric. A good North Star tends to correlate with retention and willingness to pay.
Raphael, what's the finance view of the North Star?
We care because it should be compatible with unit economics. If the North Star goes up and gross margin collapses, or churn worsens, that's a problem. Ideally, it's a leading indicator of durable revenue, either directly, or through retention and expansion. Narrative is great, but the bank account is the truth.
Now, one of the biggest upgrades you can make is building a metric stack. North Star at the top, input metrics underneath, and diagnostic metrics that explain movement. Priya, what makes something an input metric?
An input metric is something the team can actually influence in the short term, and it has a causal relationship to the North Star. So if the North Star is weekly active teams completing projects, an input might be the number of teams who set up their first project within 24 hours. You can change onboarding, improve templates, fix friction, and move that number.
Maya, diagnostics and growth. What do they look like?
Diagnostics answer, why did it change? If signups drop, you don't just stare at the drop. You break it down, which channels, which landing pages, what changed in conversion rate, did an ad set stop, did rankings shift, did audience mix change? Diagnostics are the flashlight, not the goal.
Raphael, the diagnostic layer in finance.
Variance analysis. What changed versus plan, and what's the driver? Pricing, discounting, churn drivers, cost spikes, timing of cash collections. That layer turns debates into investigation.
And if you're thinking, we're too early for a warehouse, here's the secret. Good metric discipline doesn't require fancy infrastructure. You can build clarity with a spreadsheet and a few agreed definitions before you spend $1 on a bigger stack. Quick reality check. What's one metric you see misused constantly? Priya.
DAU, daily active users, when nobody defines what active means. DAU can be a container for anything. Are users doing something valuable? Are they the right segment? Does it correlate with retention or revenue? Without that, DAU becomes a vanity number with a nice graph.
Maya.
Top of funnel traffic. Teams celebrate doubling visits while pipeline stays flat. Traffic quality matters. And often the lever isn't more people, it's better activation, so each person you already acquired produces more retained value.
Raphael.
Gross revenue growth without net revenue retention. If you're constantly replacing churned customers with new customers, it's a treadmill disguised as growth. It looks fine until cash runs out.
Perfect segue, because now we get into how startups actually compound. Growth loops. This is where BI stops being reporting and becomes design. Maya, define a growth loop so someone can picture it without slides.
A growth loop is a cycle where an action creates an output that feeds back into more input. Instead of, we run a campaign and get users, it's, users do something that generates more users or more value, which improves acquisition or retention, which grows the base, which fuels more of the same action. It's a system, not a one-off push.
Priya, product loops. What does that mean in the real world?
Product loops happen when normal usage creates artifacts that drive more usage or adoption. Collaboration is the obvious example. Someone creates a workspace, invites teammates, the teammates add content, that content becomes valuable, people depend on it, and the account expands. The product's value creation produces the triggers for more growth.
Maya, viral loops, but the non-cringy version.
Viral loop is when bringing in others is part of the value journey. Not, please refer 3 friends. More like, you share a doc, the recipient needs to sign up to collaborate, they become a user, and then they share their own doc. The key is alignment. The invite happens because it helps the user accomplish something.
Raphael, paid loops from the finance seat?
Paid loop is, you spend to acquire customers, customers generate gross margin, and you reinvest that margin into more acquisition. It only works if unit economics are solid and you have the cash to fund the cycle. B is how you see the leak, maybe conversion is weak, churn is high, payback is too slow, or CAC is creeping up.
And retention loops, Priya?
Retention loops are patterns that bring users back because value keeps arriving. Notifications can help, but the healthiest loops are tied to outcomes. New data comes in, collaboration continues, progress moves forward, reminders are meaningful. If users return only because you nag them, it's fragile.
Let's talk loop math for a second, because it forces clarity. Loop efficiency. For every unit of input, how much output comes back as the next input? Above 1 means compounding. Below 1 means leakage. Maya, give us a simple example.
Say you have an invite loop. Out of 100 active users, 30 send invites in a week. Each sends 2 invites, that's 60 invites. If 20% of invites convert into new active users, that's 12 new active users. So your efficiency in that window is 0.12, meaning that base of 100 generates 12 new. That alone won't compound like crazy, but it can still be meaningful, and you can improve it by boosting any step.
And loop stack. A stronger product loop increases retention. Better retention increases LTV. Higher LTV improves the paid loop. The paid loop increases acquisition, which increases the base feeding the product loop. And suddenly it feels like the company found growth, when the truth is it connected systems. Priya, where does product intelligence show up in designing loops?
It helps you stop guessing which behaviors actually create momentum. Teams assume sharing drives adoption, but the data might show the real trigger is exporting, embedding, or inviting after a specific milestone. When you instrument those moments, you can reduce friction exactly where it matters and improve loop efficiency.
Raphael, what's the risk if a team misreads a loop?
You can scale something broken. You pour money into paid acquisition because signups look great, but activation is weak, so revenue doesn't arrive fast enough. Then you burn cash celebrating the wrong layer of the funnel. Finance keeps asking, how quickly does this loop turn spend into cash, and is that cycle stable?
Let's make loops tangible with a mini scenario. Imagine a SaaS product where users create a valuable asset, like a report or workflow, and they can share it externally. A viewer sees it, signs up, creates their own asset, shares again. Create, share, acquire, create. Maya, what would you measure to manage this loop?
I'd track loop steps like a funnel. What % create an asset, how many shares per asset, view to sign up conversion on shared links, sign up to activation conversion, and time to first creation for new users. And I'd slice it by cohort and segment because loops often work better for specific use cases.
Priya, what would you instrument beyond the obvious?
Creation and share events, yes, but also the preconditions. What actions predict someone will create within the first session or first week? And then quality signals. If users create low-quality assets that get shared but don't convert, your loop becomes noisy. So you define what good looks like and track it.
Raphael, where does that show up in a model?
As assumptions with sensitivity. If that loop produces organic users, blended CAC falls and the growth curve improves without extra spend. But you model it honestly, organic growth as active users times a loop coefficient, plus scenarios where the coefficient drops. That tells you how fragile or resilient your plan is.
Which brings us to Pillar 3, financial modeling. Raphael, a lot of early-stage teams hear financial model and think it's only for later. What's your response?
You already have a model, it's just unspoken and inconsistent. A model is simply a structured way to connect assumptions to outcomes. And in a startup, you're making high-stakes decisions with incomplete information, so structure isn't optional, it's risk management.
If you had to give people the 3 most useful early models, what are they?
Runway, revenue, and scenarios. Runway is how long your cash lasts and which levers change it. Revenue is how customers, pricing, conversion, churn, and expansion turn into dollars. Scenarios are alternate futures, so you're not betting the company on one forecast.
Maya, teams sometimes hate modeling because it feels like pretend precision. How do you use it without lying to yourself?
You treat it like a decision tool, not a prophecy. If the model says you need 30% month-over-month growth to hit a runway milestone, it forces real questions. Which channel can do that? Which loop could plausibly fuel it? What would have to change in activation? It turns vibes into testable constraints.
Priya, where does product analytics feed the model?
Retention and conversion assumptions. If the model assumes 60% retention at day 90, but cohort data shows 30%, that's not a model, that's wishful thinking. But if product changes improve cohorts, you can update the assumptions and invest more confidently.
Let's hit the classic trio: CAC, LTV, and payback period. Raphael, plain English definitions.
CAC is what it costs to acquire a customer. LTV is the gross profit you expect to earn from that customer over their lifetime. Payback is how long it takes to earn back CAC using gross profit from that customer. Together they tell you if growth is sustainable and financeable.
And where do people go wrong?
They compute LTV on revenue instead of gross margin, assume churn stays flat as they scale, ignore support and implementation costs, and blend channels so they can't see which acquisition sources are actually profitable.
Maya, what's the growth side CAC trap?
Leaving out real costs. People count ad spend but not creative, agencies, tooling, or time. Or they treat sign-ups like customers. And they confuse blended CAC with paid CAC. Organic can make your blended CAC look great while your paid engine is quietly losing money.
Priya, how do you connect payback to product decisions without making product feel like it's owned by finance?
By translating product work into retention and expansion outcomes. Payback improves when customers stick around, expand, and require less support. Product analytics can identify behaviors that predict strong retention, like team adoption, integrations, repeated workflows, and then product leaders can prioritize the work that increases those behaviors.
Now the 3-scenario forecast. Raphael, what's the practical difference between optimistic, base, and defensive?
Optimistic assumes tailwinds, better conversion, lower churn, faster sales cycles, maybe pricing leverage. Base tracks current trends with modest improvement. Defensive assumes headwinds, slower pipeline, higher churn, delayed product delivery, rising CAC. The purpose isn't perfect numbers. It's early warning. You identify which drivers would cause each scenario so you can respond before it's a crisis.
And honestly, the psychological benefit is huge. If you already planned a defensive option, a downturn becomes a planned switch, not daily panic. Alright, Pillar 4, Product Intelligence. Priya, what do you mean by that? And how is it different from we have analytics?
Having analytics often means you have event data and dashboards. Product intelligence means you can answer the questions that matter. What behaviors predict retention? What drives expansion? Where do users get stuck? What should we build next? It's connecting behavior to outcomes and then using that to make product decisions.
Give me examples of behavioral metrics versus vanity metrics.
Vanity metrics are totals without meaning: signups, page views, downloads, raw session counts. Behavioral metrics are steps on a journey: onboarding completion, connecting and integration, creating a first artifact, inviting teammates, repeating a workflow weekly, reaching a milestone that signals value. Behavior is where the leverage is.
Maya, how does product intelligence change growth strategy?
It stops you from scaling the wrong acquisition. If product data shows one segment retains twice as well, growth can push targeting, messaging, and spend toward that segment. And it often reveals the best growth lever is activation, not another channel. Better activation makes every acquisition effort more efficient.
Raphael, what does product intelligence do for finance?
Cohorts are the business. Retention curves define LTV, predictability, and how aggressive you can be with hiring and spend. If cohorts improve, finance can support investment with confidence. If cohorts degrade, finance can flag risk early, before it becomes a cash emergency.
Let's talk cohorts directly, because they sound fancy but they're basically common sense. Priya, explain cohort analysis like I'm a founder with 5 minutes.
Group users by when they started, like sign-up week or first purchase month, and track behavior over time. Then you can compare new cohorts to old cohorts at the same age. If newer cohorts retain better, the product is improving. If they retain worse, something is breaking, or you're acquiring lower quality users.
Maya, do cohorts help settle growth debates?
Constantly. One side says, this channel is amazing, look at volume. The other says, these users churn. Cohorts decide. If activation and retention are weak for that channel, volume is a mirage. If cohorts are strong, then the channel deserves more investment.
Priya, feature intelligence. How do you figure out what features are real drivers versus dead weight?
You connect feature adoption to outcomes like conversion, 30/60/90-day retention, expansion, reduced churn. Then you test whether features predict those outcomes. But you're careful, correlation isn't causation. The best teams combine observational analysis with experiments and user research so they don't get fooled by coincidence.
Raphael, why does that matter financially?
Engineering time is one of your biggest costs. If a feature reliably improves retention by even a few points, it can massively increase LTV and justify investment. If a feature is rarely used and doesn't improve outcomes, it might be a candidate for deprecation, which reduces maintenance costs and product complexity.
So far we've covered 4 pillars separately. Now the most important part, connecting them. Because the win isn't we have dashboards, or we built a model. The win is an intelligence engine where everything informs everything else. Here's the flywheel. Metrics help you see the system. Metrics inform loop design. Loop performance feeds the financial model. The model forces product priorities, and product intelligence tells you whether the priorities worked. Then you repeat. That's how startups learn faster. Maya, what does metrics inform loops look like in an actual week?
It's focused. Pick one loop to improve, map its steps, find the biggest drop-off, and run experiments on that step. If invite to accept is weak, test timing, copy, prompts, and targeting. The goal isn't get more invites, it's raise efficiency at the weakest link.
Raphael, loops inform the model. Translate that into a practical habit.
You update assumptions. If growth is coming from a product loop instead of paid spend, that changes your CAC story and your cash needs. But you also model risk. What happens if the loop coefficient falls because of saturation or a product change? Then you know how sensitive runway is to loop health, and you can plan accordingly.
Priya, the model informs product decisions. Give a concrete example.
If the model shows retention drives LTV the most, product should prioritize activation and core workflow reliability over flashy new features. Or if expansion is the main revenue driver, product might focus on collaboration, permissions, admin controls, and integrations. The model helps teams choose which levers actually change the company's trajectory.
And then product intelligence comes back in and checks whether those investments changed outcomes, not just usage. Let's give listeners a realistic 90-day BI plan. Not a huge budget fantasy, just something a real startup can execute. Phase 1 is instrumentation. Phase 2 is insights. Phase 3 is optimization. Priya, what's minimum viable instrumentation?
Define key events along the journey, implement them consistently, and make sure you can attribute them to users, accounts, and acquisition source where possible. And you need a shared definitions page. What counts as active? What is activation? What is churn? If you don't define terms, you'll spend your BA time arguing instead of learning.
Maya, by day 60, in the insights phase, what do you want to know?
I want clarity. What's our North Star? What inputs move it, and where are the leaks? I want a growth loop map with metrics per step. I want channel cohorts, not just channel volume. And I want a weekly cadence where we review, learn, and decide what tests happen next.
Raphael, by day 90, optimization, what does finance want in place?
A model that updates with reality, burn, runway, revenue, churn, CAC, payback. And a leadership process that ties spending to measurable outcomes. Optimization looks like being able to answer, if we hire 2 engineers and a marketer, what must become true in retention and conversion for it to be worth it?
Let's do one more scenario. Focused on the idea of scaling smart. A startup is growing, but customers leave after 2 months. Then within a quarter they cut churn dramatically and activation doubles. Not through magic, just through the BI system working. Priya, how does that happen?
They start by segmenting churn by cohort and customer type and find the real pattern. Churn concentrates among customers who never reach the aha moment. Then they map onboarding, identify friction, and improve the path to first value with clearer setup, better defaults, templates, and guided workflows. They also find behaviors that predict retention, like inviting teammates or running a weekly report, and they design the product to encourage those behaviors.
Maya, what changes on the growth side in that story?
Growth stops optimizing for the cheapest signups and starts optimizing for activated, retained users. They narrow targeting to segments that succeed, fix messaging so expectations match reality, and evaluate channel experiments based on downstream retention, not just top-of-funnel volume.
Raphael, what happens financially when churn drops?
LTV rises. That increases allowable CAC and can unlock more growth if payback still makes sense. It also stabilizes revenue, which makes planning less fragile. Practically, they might extend runway without raising, or hire with confidence because the revenue base isn't leaking as fast.
One thing people don't say enough, BI isn't just numbers. It's trust. When definitions are consistent and metrics tied to decisions, teams argue less. When BI is sloppy, the loudest voice wins, and learning slows down. Let's do rapid fire. If you could fix just one BI mistake in a startup tomorrow, what would it be? Maya.
No weekly decision cadence. I'd create a weekly metric review that ends with decisions and owners. Not a reporting meeting. A decision meeting.
Priya.
Inconsistent definitions and tracking. If activation means one thing to product and another to growth, you can't learn. Build a shared dictionary and enforce it.
Raphael.
The disconnect between metrics and cash. I'd tie the key metrics to the business levers that affect runway and unit economics, and model the impact so the stakes are obvious to everyone.
Alright, let's close with takeaways you can actually use. First, build a metric hierarchy. Choose a North Star that represents user value. Identify input metrics you can influence quickly. Use diagnostic metrics to explain movement. Don't drown in dashboards. Second, think in loops, not lines. Map your growth loops, measure each step, and improve the weakest link. Small improvements compounded weekly can change the company faster than you think. Third, model to prepare, not to predict. Build runway, revenue, and scenario models. Use CAC, LTV, and payback to tell you if growth is truly scalable. Update assumptions as the data improves. Fourth, invest in product intelligence. Track behaviors that signal real value. Use cohorts to see whether the product is improving over time, and learn which features drive retention versus which ones just add complexity. And finally, connect the system. When metrics inform loops, loops inform models, models inform product priorities, and product intelligence validates the outcomes, you stop guessing. You start learning faster than the competition. Maya Chen, Rafael Torres, Priya Nair, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Soren. This was a good, practical one.
Appreciate it. And yes, financial models can be fun, but only if you let them be tools instead of arguments.
Thanks, Soren. I hope teams listening feel like they can make analytics genuinely useful, not just louder.
And thank you for listening to the BI channel, powered by B.I.M Corporation. If you want more episodes where data meets decision, you can find us online at thebimcorporation.us. Until next time, keep scaling smart. The BI channel, where data meets decision.